The year is 1525. The exiled Sultan of Malacca launched a major military campaign to retake his city from the Portuguese Empire. To execute this counteroffensive and break the European naval blockade, he enlisted a formidable mercenary force from the Philippines, specifically consisting of 500 Luções arquebusiers and 20 native Karakoa warships. The Malaccan Campaign. During the Portuguese Admiral Diogo Lopes de Sequeira's visit to Malacca from 1509 to 1510, the Sultan planned to assassinate him. However, Sequeira learned of this plot and fled Malacca after losing a few followers to the Sultan's guards. When the famous Portuguese naval officer Afonso de Albuquerque received word, he decided to utilize this to embark upon his expeditions of conquest in Asia. Malacca was then subsequently attacked by the Portuguese in the capture of Malacca, 1511, during which Mahmud Shah fled across the Malay Peninsula to Pahang on the east coast, where he made a futile effort to enlist Chinese aid. With Malacca occupied and taken by the Portuguese, along with no Chinese support, the exiled Sultan is forced to flee. Despite his exile, he is still recognized as the ruler of Malacca and was still able to collect tribute from the neighboring lands. Mahmud Shah then moved south, and with his capital on the island of Bintan, now part of Indonesia, he became the leader of a Malay Muslim confederacy and launched several unsuccessful attacks against Portuguese-occupied Malacca between 1515 and 1519. In 1526, the Portuguese responded to the threat of Mahmud Shah's forces by destroying his capital at Bintan. Mahmud Shah finally fled to Kampar, Riau, then died 2 years later in 1528. But in this timeline, Horizon Actual discovers the incident and deems this as a way to procure prestige and even wealth. As such, with his experimental army and navy fighting as mercenaries, he and his new special forces, he would fight the Western invaders, as well as secure an alliance with the holder of the gateway of Southeast Asia. With this, the first proper battle of the Ghost Force is underway, one that will test the capabilities and training that this first standing army of the newly formed coalition was underway. The year is 1525. For the newly unified Luzon-Visayas Coalition, the horizon is expanding. Under the tactical guidance of Datu Horizon Actual, the pre-colonial Philippines is no longer waiting defensively for the Spanish Empire to return. They are looking west, toward the most heavily contested economic highway on Earth, the Strait of Malacca. Historically, the native warriors of Luzon, known in Portuguese records as the Luções, were already famous across Southeast Asia. They were pioneer seafarers, massive exporters of gold, and highly sought-after military mercenaries. The Portuguese chronicler João de Barros famously described the Luções as the most warlike and valiant of these parts. In our actual history, when the exiled Sultan of Malacca attempted to retake his city from the Portuguese in 1525, he enlisted a massive force of 500 Luções arquebusiers and 20 native Karakoa warships to help break the European blockade. but they fought as divided mercenaries, serving the wars of foreign kings. But in this timeline, the doctrine has changed. Horizon Actual realizes that a localized defense will eventually be overwhelmed. To test their newly forged, custom-rifled Astingal V3 muskets and iron-reinforced warships, the coalition must strike first. Prince Aceh of Mainila is placed in command. They are launching the archipelago's first unified national expeditionary strike force against a premier European global power. To project power across the South China Sea, the coalition's naval doctrine required an immediate upgrade. Pre-colonial Karakoa warships were masterfully designed thalassocratic tools, exceptionally fast and highly maneuverable. However, their lightweight hulls were highly vulnerable to the devastating broadside cannons of heavy European carracks. Using the structural frame salvaged from the abandoned Spanish galleons in Cebu, the shipwrights of Tondo and Mactan engineered a hybrid. They reinforced the Karakoa's outriggers with deep timber carvel sheathing to absorb grape shot and deflect splinters. With this newfound effort, Mactan forges and shipbuilders would be called to action, all in the creation of these new hybrid vessels. More importantly, they mounted heavy cast-iron deck guns at the prows, reverse-engineered from Magellan's flagship. The Portuguese expected to police a highway of unarmored wooden boats. They were about to be intercepted with an experimental one. While it would still have the traditional style, its newly trained marines and gunners would transform them from a simple vessel into a new archipelagic warship, capable of answering the Portuguese ships of war. As the Luzon-Visayas Armada enters the Strait of Malacca, they are intercepted by a heavy Portuguese naval patrol. The European commanders rely on their standard doctrine: line up the heavy carracks and unleash long-range artillery broadsides to shatter the native fleet. A battered Portuguese carrack unleashes a massive broadside, sending up thick, gray-black smoke. But the hybrid Karakoas are too fast. Utilizing the rowers' synchronized cadence, the coalition fleet slips directly into the blind spots of the heavy Portuguese guns. Then, Horizon Actual's CQB training takes over. From the elevated catwalks of the Karakoas, marksmen from the Mactan Ghost Force raise their custom-rifled Astingal V3 muskets. Operating with terrifying squad-level autonomy, they deploy precision suppressive fire, systematically neutralizing the Portuguese gunners and officers exposed on the upper decks. With the enemy's deck fire silenced, the Karakoas close the gap instantly. Elite Luções and Pintados boarding parties swarm over the gunwales. Utilizing the waterproof, corded barote armor that easily deflects heavy European cutlasses, they execute traditional eskrima and kalis combat angles, optimized specifically for extreme close-quarters deck clearing. The Portuguese falter, and with the successful boarding, the coalition secures more carracks for its forces, furthering strengthening the coalitions. This gives them more insights on the way these Western forces fight and give his new Ghost Force experience against their tactics. This is a good test for his new forces, one that they all pass with flying colors. They have proven themselves, and with this victory, they were able to showcase just how capable this new forces were. The Datu has won his first battle, and with that, he was able to prove that they were battle-worthy. A single surviving Portuguese vessel is permitted to flee westward toward the colonial capital of Goa, India. It carries a terrifying report for the Portuguese viceroy. The savages of the eastern islands are no longer fragmented, spear-wielding tribes. They possess firearms, iron artillery, and new naval tactics. But by capturing the remaining Portuguese carracks in the strait, the coalition secures the ultimate geopolitical prize: Portuguese pilot logs, naval charts, and encrypted spy network manifests. Armed with this global intelligence, Datu Horizon Actual immediately orders the construction of permanent, heavily fortified maritime monitoring stations at the San Bernardino and Surigao Straits. The Archipelagic Shield is now fully operational. The gates to the Pacific are secured. Armed with this global intelligence, Datu Horizon Actual immediately orders the construction of permanent, heavily fortified maritime monitoring stations at the San Bernardino and Surigao Straits. The Archipelagic Shield is now fully operational. The gates to the Pacific are closed. By shifting from local defense to offensive power projection, the Luzon-Visayas Coalition has established itself as the undisputed sovereign superpower of the region. 36 years remain before Miguel López de Legazpi's Spanish Armada is scheduled to arrive in 1565. When Spain finally returns to claim the Philippines, they will not find isolated chiefdoms waiting to be conquered. They will be marching into the jaws of a hyper-militarized, industrialized empire that has already broken the Portuguese Navy. This has been a tactical situation report from Philippine Re-Horizon. If you want to see how the coalition prepares the ultimate trap for the returning Spanish Armada, hit that subscribe button and join our community. With the Strait of Malacca now heavily monitored by coalition forces, how should the Ghost Force utilize the captured Portuguese naval charts? Should they begin exploring westward toward India, or lock down their borders and focus entirely on internal industrialization? Let us know your tactical reasoning below.